a big breaking update that is coming in from West Asia, which is now witnessing another dangerous escalation in months. It all started with an attack on Iran's Qeshm Island. It is a key island near the Strait of Hormuz. The United States has said that it has carried out self-defense strikes on the Iranian radars and the drone control sites there. US has claimed that it targeted infra that is linked to Iran's drone operations. Explosions, in fact, were heard on the key island near the Strait of Hormuz, and with this, a tense standoff that has now taken a very dangerous turn. That is what we're learning so far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. West Asia is witnessing another dangerous escalation in months. Remember, a ceasefire was announced in April earlier this year, but now it appears that it has been violated. It all started with an attack on Iran's Qeshm Island. It is a key island near the Strait of Hormuz. The United States has said that it carried out self-defense strikes on this Iranian island, on the radar system, the drone control sites as well, and that it targeted the infra that is linked to Iran's drone operations. And also, we are learning at this point in time, explosions were reported on this key island near the Strait of Hormuz. And with that, we have another breaking update coming in as far as war in West Asia is concerned. That is slated for another dangerous escalation. In fact, we told you about the attack on the Qeshm Island, but now we are learning that there has been a counter-attack as well. US Central Command has claimed that as far as IRGC is concerned, there has been an attack from their side as well. They have hit out the bases in Bahrain and Kuwait is what we are learning so far. Iran did not wait for too long to respond. IRGC said that it launched missile and drones at the American military targets across the Gulf in retaliation for the attacks on the Qeshm Island. Iran has claimed that it targeted the headquarters of the US 5th Fleet in Bahrain. That's a key airbase in the Gulf region. And also, we are learning at this point in time, just a while back, air raids sirens sounded across Bahrain and Kuwait. Missile alerts were issued as the defense systems were activated. The Gulf region is bracing for a potential wider conflict as US-Iran appear to enter another phase of the conflict. So there was an attack on the Qeshm Island, that is in Iran, a very key island near the Strait of Hormuz. But we are learning that Iran did not wait for too long to respond as well. IRGC has claimed that it has already launched missile and drones at the military areas, the US bases in Bahrain and Kuwait, and also saying that it has already landed, they have hit the headquarters of the US 5th Fleet in Bahrain. That's a key airbase in the region, and another military assets of America is what we are learning so far. So attack and counter-attack in the last few hours. And now comes the big question, did Iran actually hit the targets? Iran said that missile and drone successfully struck the American bases. The US has now strongly rejected these claims. US Central Command has said that every Iranian missile that was fired was either intercepted or it failed before reaching the target. Both the sides agree that missiles were fired. Both sides agree that military exchange actually took place, but they completely disagree on the outcome of it. As of now, there's no evidence that major US bases in Bahrain or elsewhere they were successfully hit. What is confirmed is that missiles were launched, air raids, a siren, they rang across Gulf, and US-Iran war has escalated to another level. Now, that's a claim and a counter-claim that is coming in from both the countries. Iran has claimed that it has hit the US military bases in the Gulf region, but now that has been fact-checked by US Central Command. They have said that the information that has been given by Iran is completely false. The Iranian missiles, they were either intercepted or they failed before reaching the target, is what US Central Command has said. So let me once again take you through what has happened in the last few hours. It all started with an attack on Iran's Qeshm Island. It is a key island near the Strait of Hormuz. The United States said that it carried out self-defense strikes. It is what US is calling it, on the Iranian radar and drone control sites, saying that it targeted the infra linked to Iran's drone operations. And in Iran, in fact, explosions were reported on the ski island, that is the Qeshm Island, very close to the Strait of Hormuz. But Iran did not wait for too long. They have also retaliated, saying that they have hit out at the US bases in Bahrain and Kuwait. But that has been fact-checked by US is what we are learning so far, because the big question at this point in time is, did Iran actually hit the US bases? Iran has said that the missiles and drones successfully struck the American bases in Bahrain, but now we have a counter that has come in from the United States. They have strongly rejected that claim. In fact, a statement that has come in from US Central Command that every Iranian missile that was either intercepted or it failed before reaching the target. So that is what has happened in the last few hours. Both the sides agree that missiles were fired. Both the sides agree that the military exchange took place, but they completely disagree on the outcome of it. As of now, there's no evidence that major US bases in Bahrain or elsewhere in the Gulf region, they were successfully hit. What we can confirm right now is that missiles were launched. Air raid sirens rang across the Gulf region is what we are learning so far. Let me get you more perspective and go across to Matthew Wadham, senior journalist, joining us live in the broadcast from USA. Thank you so much, sir, for connecting with us. How do you look at what is happening there in West Asia once again? Because just 2 months back, there was announcement of the ceasefire in between, in fact, US and Iran. But it appears that that has been violated by both the countries. There has been one attack on the Qeshm Island, and in retaliation, Iran has hit at the US bases in the Gulf region once again.
Well, I've always maintained that the ceasefire was a terrible idea, and apparently it's falling apart right now, despite President Trump's sunny statements that, you know, the Iranians are desperate for peace and so on, and really anxious to make a deal. You know, he kept saying these things on his social media website, Truth Social. And I think he was just, you know, projecting a level of confidence onto them and speaking aspirationally, hoping that they would rise to the occasion and want to cut a deal with him. But I think it's pretty clear that they don't, and that they want, they don't respect the ceasefire process, and that it's pretty clear they want to continue fighting. And I suspect the United States is going to have to respond in kind, even though President Trump appears to want to wants to exit this conflict as soon as possible. I don't think the Iranians are going to let him, and I think the United States is going to have to go back to war with Iran. You know, either that or it's going to slink away, you know, humiliated and you know, having been shown, having the world see that Iran can easily humiliate the United States. I don't think the United States can tolerate that.
Absolutely. And US President Donald Trump, he has been demanding that Iran put down in writing the nuclear concession that the country said that it will make as a part of the agreement. What, according to you, are the key friction points? Because this, in a way, it all started with the attack on the Qeshm Island. This, in a way, is a pressure that has been put by US on Iran, because the back channel talks were underway. Many a times, in fact, Donald Trump has taken to social media saying that they are going to arrive at a deal very soon. But then what happened? What do you think would be the friction point between the two countries?
The friction points, or if you want to call them that, the red lines, are that the United States is insistent that Iran not be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. Iran, on the other hand, says it has every right to develop a nuclear weapon, or sometimes they don't couch it that boldly. They just say that they want to keep uranium for, you know, their enriched uranium for peaceful purposes. But everybody knows, who follows this kind of thing, knows that Iran is lying and that they want to build a nuclear weapon. Those are the main, those are the two key friction points, as you put them. The United States seems to have, you know, all but given up on the idea of regime change. You know, which in my view is unfortunate, because I think the regime deserves to be changed. It needs to be changed. But, you know, apart from, you know, what I think, the United States doesn't want to fight a war in Iran anymore, and it looks like it's going to be forced to do so. And I'm sure President Trump is not happy about this. And in fact, this sort of his frustration with the situation spilled over into his expletive-laden phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that reportedly took place yesterday, in which he swore at him and said,
Right.
I saved you. I saved you from jail, and everybody in the world hates Israel now. Why aren't you cooperating with what I want you to do? So. President Trump is trying to put his best face forward, but I think he's very frustrated with what's going on. And I don't see how he can fail to respond militarily to what the Iranians are now doing, because they are rubbing this weak ceasefire in his nose and basically daring him to take action. And in order to save face, I think in order to secure the objective of preventing Iran from developing a nuclear weapon, America has to take action. That's the way I see it.
Absolutely, because many a times he has taken to social media in the last 2 months that there would be a deal between the two countries very soon. But now, after the attacks, it appears that he's quite frustrated that Iran is not agreeing to the red lines as far as US is concerned. Stay on with us, Sarah. I'll come back to you once again. We have another breaking update coming in from West Asia, where tensions at sea are now escalating. We're learning in the latest, US Central Command has said that its forces have disabled another tanker that was bound for Iran. According to CENTCOM, this oil tanker, the name is MT Lexi, that was intercepted while heading towards the Kurg Island in Iran and was stopped after it failed to comply with the repeated warnings from the US forces. CENTCOM has claimed that vessel ignored the instruction over a 24-hour period while transiting the international waters, prompting what it describes as a targeted strike on the ship's engine room, something that the US Central Command has been stating that they have intercepted many of the oil tankers heading towards the Iranian ports in the last few days as well. Mr. Matthew, I want to come to you on this once again. How do you look at the naval blockade that has been put up by US forces there in the Strait of Hormuz? Do you think, according to you, has it been successful in putting pressure on Iran, because that was a counter to Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz, blocking the vessels, and many of them also stuck there for several of the months?
I think it's been of limited success, but it hasn't defeated the Iranians, if that's what you're asking me. It has not caused the Iranians to give up and come back to, the bargaining table and actually get serious about making a durable commitment to long-term peace, or to opening up the Strait of Hormuz, or to giving up on their ambition of developing a nuclear weapon. So, overall, I would say that the blockade has been successful in maintaining pressure on the Iranians, but it has not produced the result that the U.S. government would have liked to have seen. So in that sense, I suppose you could argue that it's a failure, and so is the ceasefire. That's obviously a failure too, and I'm not sure why the United States was so trusting of a disreputable regime like that of the mullahs in the Islamic Republic of Iran, why it ever trusted them to begin with. And so now, the United States is getting backed into a corner, and, either it is going to have to withdraw in humiliation, or it's going to have to save face by fighting and achieving its war goals.
All right, so one more question before I let you go. Do you believe that this is phase 2 of the war? Are we going to see escalation in the coming days as well? What, according to you, is happening there in West Asia at this point in time?
I'd be very surprised if the United States does not escalate at this point. It more or less has to. It has to respond to these Iran flouting the ceasefire in its face, with its brazen attacks, with its so-called mosquito fleet of those fast attack boats that annoy shipping and that also apparently have cruise missile capability, cruise missile firing capability that can damage U.S. naval ships. So the United States has to escalate, and I'd be really shocked if it didn't do so in the next couple of days.
All right, stay on with us, Mr. Matthew. We have another breaking update coming in as far as war in West Asia is concerned, because we are learning that U.S. officials have been questioned in Congress about the ongoing conflict with Iran. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that Iran will not be allowed to develop the nuclear weapons and defended the U.S. strategy in the West Asia region. He also claimed that Iranian military has been wiped out, something that U.S. has been saying in the last 4 months. And at the same time, we're learning that U.S. Central Command has also told lawmakers that the missile and the drone attack on the American forces, they have mostly been stopped or failed with no major damage also reported. And this comes at a time when tensions between U.S. and Iran remains very high, with continued strikes that are reported from that area. But at this point in time, we're learning as far as the war in West Asia is concerned, Donald Trump's aide, that is U.S. Secretary, State Secretary Marco Rubio, he has been grilled by the U.S. lawmakers. Rubio has maintained that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. U.S. State Secretary has also defended the strategy as far as Donald Trump is concerned and the strategy on the war as well. Listen in to what he said.
Today, there is no Iranian Navy. There is no such thing. There's a bunch of Boston whalers with machine guns on them, but there is no Navy. There is no Iranian Navy. It lies at the bottom of the ocean and will soon, within a number of years, be prime fishing spots because they'll turn into reefs. Today, there is no Iranian Navy. There is no such thing. There's a bunch of Boston whalers with machine guns on them, but there is no Navy. There is no Iranian Navy. It lies at the bottom of the ocean and will soon, within a number of years, be prime fishing spots because they'll turn into reefs. Today, there is no Iranian Navy. There is no such thing. There's a bunch of Boston whalers with machine guns on them, but there is no Navy. There is no...
Mr. Matthew, I want to ask you about what you just heard as far as Marco Rubio is concerned, because now tough questions are being asked from the U.S. officials there, from the Congress, about the ongoing conflict with Iran, what their strategy actually is.
Well, Rubio is correct in saying that the United States has obliterated the Iranian Navy. He also could have said they wiped out the Iranian Air Force, which no longer exists. But that doesn't mean that the Islamic Republic of Iran is helpless at this point. It still has its fast attack boats, which, you know, they're small, but they can still inflict some damage against shipping vessels and against the U.S. Navy, you know, to an extent. I don't think they can sink a U.S. warship, but they can certainly, you know, disable one and inflict some damage. And Iran has still got mines, you know, mine-laying capability in the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran could still call up its army if it needed to, though the army isn't going to be much use against, you know, against the United States Navy, I would think. So, but in any event, my point was that Iran is not helpless, but it is severely weakened. It can continue with this pattern of asymmetric warfare, you know, or guerrilla warfare, you might want to call it, against U.S. forces, and it can continue to inflict pain on the United States. Basically, Iran considers it a victory when it continues to exist, when it's not obliterated by the United States. If they survive, they consider it a win, and that's what they're going for at this point, and that's been their approach since the Iranian Revolution in 1979, is to just drag things out, to you know, pretend to be cooperative during negotiations, and then to keep fighting and rebuilding whenever there's a ceasefire.
We are witnessing another escalation in West Asia region. As we told our viewers, an attack on the Qeshm Island in Iran and a retaliation by Iran on the key bases, U.S. bases there in Bahrain and Kuwait as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew, for connecting with us and putting that into perspective.